Hey there. Thanks for sticking with me for one more day as we dive into this text of Matthew 5:17, talking specifically about Jesus and the fulfilling of the law. So, again, I'm a part of the King's Ministry. We're in Lake Alfred, Florida. We're on Lynchburg Rd. We're the old Lynchburg Baptist Church, if you remember, or were around back in the day. And we meet on the Sabbath, which is Saturday at 11 a.m. And I would encourage you to come out, join us if you're looking for a Sabbath-keeping congregation. And we'd love to have you. Love to meet you. Love to discuss some of these points with you if you disagree or if you agree. So anyway, I consider you a brother or sister if you're a believer in Jesus. And we don't have to be a dysfunctional family that's mad at each other all the time. We can debate and have good conversation and either come to some form of agreement or disagreement. And I'm okay with that because I'll see you in heaven. But let's dive into this text about Matthew 5:17. And so forgive me, I'm sniffling a little bit. I've got a little bit of a cold that I'm fighting. I've bombarded that thing with vitamin C, and it's starting to take effect. So anyway, we talked yesterday about Matthew 5:17, 18, 19, and 20, where Jesus is very clearly saying that he didn't come to do away with the law. However, many theological stances, doctrines, teachings on Sunday morning state the contrary, that Jesus fulfilled the law and therefore we're not under that law, using Paul's quotation from Romans, which is a whole different topic, and we'll get into that later. But here we have Jesus' words. If you have a King James Bible, you will see that these words are actually in red. Again, we're at BibleHub.com, and we're using their study tools so that you can go study this for yourself. If you don't have all the resources, you can dive in. They have a mobile app that works wonderful, but you can get yourself some learning and some education free of charge. So So Matthew 5:17, we're going to dive in here, and it says from the Holman Christian Standard Bible, "Don't assume that I came to destroy the law or the prophets." Again, Jesus speaking. "I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill." New American Standard Bible. "Do not think I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill." It's funny that every version uses that same thing too, that same word fulfill, when there's much better translations or better words to be used. King James, "Think not that I have come to destroy," that's a much more harsh word, destroy, "the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." So here we see, if we were to believe that Jesus did come to do away with the law, or at least the requirement of following that law, then here is the point that we usually stick to in our theology. See, Jesus came to fulfill the law, so I don't have to follow the law. He fulfilled it for me. No, he fulfilled it because he was and is the Messiah. He is the Word made flesh. He could not be something that he was not. Of course, he walked the law out perfectly to the things that applied to him. So let's dive into this word fulfill. That was just a sidebar. I'll probably delete that. Pleroo. So let's see what the word pleroo can mean. And is there a better word that we possibly could use in the text to describe what Jesus is saying? Because again, 17, 18, 19 all support each other for the first half of 17. This second half, after the comma, is the part of contention that the church has presented as the evidence to say that we are not bound to follow the commandments. So if we look at this word pleroo, we can see that there's several definitions. And so there's some in here, and in these definitions, they actually contradict each other. So let's look at some of these words and then decide which word would actually complement what Jesus has said in the first part of Matthew 17, as opposed to create this false narrative of contradiction. Because I don't believe there's a contradiction. I believe there are some words that could have been used that were a little bit better at describing what Jesus was saying, as opposed to creating a contradiction. And the one that I really like most as I look at these is I really like the fully preached. I'm just going to say I'm a little biased to that, because when we see Jesus' life lived out, we see that he's fully preaching. He's living out the text. He is fully preaching it in the synagogue to the Pharisees. He's calling the Pharisees out. He's calling the Sadducees out. He's calling the scribes out. All of these elders of that religious system of the day, he's constantly telling them, hey, look, you stick to your traditions, but you ignore the Word of God. And he is the Word of God made flesh, according to John. And so when we see this fully preached, we can go back to our text and we can insert that word or that translation and say, don't assume that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fully preach. Verse 18, for I assure you, which is a continuation, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all things are accomplished. Go to 19. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches people to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So I would argue that yes, you're in the kingdom of heaven. Welcome. So am I. However, my contention is that we should be living out the commandments as a response to our salvation. We shouldn't be continuing in sin after we've been saved. And that's a whole different topic about what is sin, what is the definition of sin. But it basically, sin in its rawest form, it just means you broke God's law. You broke the commandments. If you've ever told a lie, which I have told many a lies in my lifetime, so I'm a sinner. So Jesus has saved me. I have repented of my sins. I have asked the Lord to forgive me. I had started to follow Jesus and returned away from that lifestyle of sin and promiscuity, all those things. And my response to accepting the free gift of salvation is that now I'm going to live my life as he tells me to. And that's in following his commandments. They're not Jewish commandments. They're not Jewish festivals. If you go read the text in Leviticus and Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Genesis, these commandments that we keep attributing to the Jewishness of them, they actually say the Lord's feast, the Lord's command. They are the Lord's, which we know is God the Father. I love you. I encourage you to do the study yourself, test it for yourself, read the text, dive in, comment below of how I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm going to get that anyway, and how I'm a heretic and creating a cult, which I'm just reading the text. So I love you, and I hope that this has been a blessing to you, and we'll talk soon. Be blessed.